Hi there, thought I'd do a review on the Jotul Rangeley tl50 freestanding wood stove. First off is the looks of the stove. Well, it's basically a big black cube. It is not the most beautiful wood stove, in my opinion, but it does have some little details on it and features. It's not ugly, don't get me wrong, but in compared to which I have the Jotul Oslo 500, it's kind of like the ugly stepbrother of it, I guess. Uh, But again, that's up to the person, I guess, right? But functionality, I think the stove is much better. It is a TL, which means top load. They give you this handy dandy tool. They just stick right on here to open this up. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, you're going to have your personal gloves on anyway, so just grab the gloves and open it up, but whatever. You just open this up, and that lets you into this compartment here, which then you pull on this handle, which then opens up the flapper, which then allows you into the firebox. It's an option that I used one time. As far as I'm concerned, I'll never use it again. Maybe someday when I'm older, I can't bend over, I may, which, is possible. Uh, it you have to cut the logs short to do it, and it's a pain to load them that way. I found it's kind of for me, it's a useless option. But with the top load, you do get this. You get the winter grill, right? Their trademark thing. Uh, it's maybe 14 inches wide or so by probably 8 inches deep and maybe 2.5, 3 inches tall. It's not huge. I mean, it's wide, but if you want to cook some chicken breast, some bratwurst, hot dogs, baked potatoes, things of that nature, they'll fit in there. Not a problem. But you're not going to cook like a head of cabbage or turkey or anything like that, or Cornish game hen in this thing. Not on the winter grill anyway. So it has its uses, but it's pretty limited as far as what you can actually cook in the thing. As far as functionality of this wood stove, I absolutely love it. I mean, as a functional wood heater, this is my primary stove, and I absolutely love it. I'm kind of spoiled because I have the Jotul Oslo 500. I did buy this stove 1 year previous, and I actually thought there's problems with the Oslo 500 because this stove is, as far as I'm concerned, far superior to the Oslo. Again, like I said, it's a rectangular, or not rectangular, but a cube wood stove. So it's 18 inches deep by 20 inches wide. So really, you're talking dimensionally, it's pretty close. I tend to load the stove north-south versus east-west. What I found is, even though you can accept a 20-inch log this way, you have to cut them down to probably 18 inches anyway, because the door, I don't know if you want to call it the door jamb, is smaller than the firebox. So if you cut a 20-inch log, once you get towards the front, you can't fit a 20-inch log in. You have to have shorter logs to actually fit them in. Also, they tend to want to roll out on you, and compared to if you're loading them this way. It did come with the irons, I think that's what they're called, to prevent the rollout. But because I load it north to south, I remove those because there's no reason to have them in there. That's one nice about north-south loading, is that once you put them in, they're going to stay where they are. They're not going to roll out on you. They're not going to fall against the glass. They're not, I mean, it's so much easier. And I found that for relightability, it's much nicer also. Uh, as far as burn times go, I'm really impressed with this stove. I've had it that 24 hours later, I've been able to easily relight the stove with no kindling. Just throwing straight up, smaller logs in, and I mean, over 24 hours later, which is really impressive. Like I said, I'm kind of, compared to the Oslo 500, it was kind of a disappointment. Uh, I loaded this at 10 o'clock this morning. It's now after 3 o'clock, and you can see I got pretty good bed of coals in there. Still some solid chunks. And I did not load the stove up to the brim, because it's like 32 degrees outside, so there's really no reason for it. But I usually load the stove about 9 o'clock at night, reload it. I get up at 5, I reload it at that time. And what you see in there right now is probably a little bit more than what I would have at 5 a.m. when I get up for the morning. Again, that depends on the wood that you burn, whether or not it's green, and your airflow. I set the stove at about 25% when I go to bed at night. The stove stays at about 400 degrees pretty much for the most part. I think for probably the first 5 or 6 hours. When I get up in the morning, it's probably 250 to 300 degrees. the stove has just a lot of mass to it. I don't remember what it weighs. It's like 450 pounds or something ridiculous, though, and compared to the Oslo, which is, I think, 150 pounds less. As far as the glass staying clean, I know everybody asks, well, how long does the glass stay clean? I haven't cleaned this. We've been burning 24/7 since the end of October, beginning of November, and it's now the 10th of December. And this is how dirty the glass is, and this is how dirty the glass will stay for the rest of the winter. It won't get any cleaner, and it won't get any dirtier. It's just soot. And you can see kind of the speaker back there in spots, but it's definitely dirty. But if you clean it, since I do clean, well, one thing, I burn 24/7. So in order to clean the glass, well, you gotta let the glass cool down. Well, how do you do that? You gotta let the stove cool out. Well, I burn 24/7. So again, I'm gonna say that, I burn continuously. So for me, to clean the glass is a real pain because then I have to let everything die out and then clean the glass. And within a week, it's gonna pretty much look this exact same way again. So it's like, what's the point? Every once in a while, I'll clean it, if we get like a January thaw or something like that. But generally, I don't bother a whole lot with it. The ash pan is good size. I probably clean this stove out as far as ashes go, maybe once or twice a week. I tend to leave the ashes in there because, again, for the relightability for this stove, if you don't have any ashes in there, the coals all want to burn all down to nothing, down to ash. And it makes it more difficult. Like I said, 24 hours later, if you got a good bed of ashes in there, those coals kind of stay insulated and you can light this thing right back up. It's pretty unbelievable. And you don't lose much as far as volume in the wood stove goes. But overall, like I said, I am extremely impressed with the heat output of this stove and the burn times and relightability. In comparison to the Oslo, I mean, this thing is just superior. Granted, I think the specifics, or what do you want to say, the details, or whatever they call it, between the two stoves pretty much say that also, that the burn times are longer with this, and that I think it's got the bigger firebox and all that. But this seems so much more. It's unbelievable how much longer it seems that I can relight this, and that it gives off heat, and just the relightability. I mean, like right now, if I threw some logs in there, they just start right up, because I think a lot of it's because I do the north-south versus east-west, which just really seems to make a real pain for the east-west relighting a stove. Just something with airflow or whatever the case is. I don't know what it is, but this stove, it's unbelievable as ease of use. The only problem I've had with this stove is the part, that flap for the top loading section, warped on me. Not terribly, but it would warp a little bit. And I just contacted our regional supplier of these stoves. The guy that installed the wood stove, I won't do business with anymore. Not because of the wood stoves, because of something else, but I won't do business with him. I just contacted our regional supplier, and he just had me take some pictures. I emailed them down to him. He said, all right, he must have contacted Jotul or whatever. They sent them a new one. I just had to go pick it up. It took me, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to replace this stinking thing. And so, I mean, Jotul stood behind their word. So, I mean, what can I really say other than the plate warped and they stood behind their word? So take that for what you want to take it for, I guess. Like I said, though, I mean, other than that, I'm extremely happy with the stove. I mean, its functionality, heat output, burnability, burn times, relight times. I mean, they're just, compared to the Jotul Oslo 500, in my opinion, again, are just unbelievable. Plus, I think this stove is on the higher of efficiency level. I think this is an 83 or 86% efficient or something like that, whereas, most stoves are going to be like that mid 70s. So maybe it's that extra 6 or 7% of efficiency that really, gives it its edge. So I don't know. I think that's about all I have to say about the stove. And if you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave some comments. At any rate, stay warm this winter.